Hey witches, welcome back to the channel once again. This is going to be another video where I'm answering a subscriber's question. And, I just feel like it deserves an entire whole video devoted to this topic. And I'm going to preface this by once again saying this is all my own opinion, my own views. I shouldn't have to say that at the beginning of every single video because obviously anything that anyone says is their own views and their own perspective and their own opinion. So, this is a question, might be a controversial video, but this question is from Ghost Trick. And they're asking, what God do Christians serve? Their comment also said, like, they've seen a lot of, they grew up Christian and they've seen a lot of Christians in their life talking about how God changed them, etc. And so it just got them curious, what God do Christians serve really? So I think that's an interesting question. And I don't see a lot of witches on YouTube or anywhere really talking about Christianity in depth. Just from kind of an objective stance, not really, anytime you really see witches talking about Christianity, it's always in a sort of like judgmental, conflict type of way. So that's not going to be how I talk about it here. I'm just sort of going to objectively look at it from the perspective of just a spiritual person who has explored all forms of spirituality and all religions that I found interesting. I also was raised Christian, so, I think many of us are in this society. So, I have an inside look at it, of course. And so, being as a witch now, and as someone who has, looked into other religions that I found interesting, and out of curiosity of just wanting to learn objectively, not devoting to them, but just wanting to learn about them and their views. There was a period when I came out of Christianity hating it, and just with that judgmental mindset, that conflict mindset, wanting or feeling that, it's just wrong, and, just hating Christians in that regard, for what they stood for, the ideology, the mindset of it. But at the same time, that's really not fair because, every person is unique. Every person, whether they subscribe to a religion or not, they're a unique person. They have their own personality. There's lots of Christians who are not judgmental, who are just kind people, and they don't give a fuck what religion you are or what spirituality you follow. They'll still be your friend, they'll still be kind. So with, I've experienced that several times as well in my life. So, I don't judge Christians automatically just based on the fact that they're Christian. And I don't judge anyone based on their religion or their spiritual path. But, I judge people based on, how they treat me and how they treat others. And, that type of thing. Their just internal morality, I guess. So, with that said, as a preface to this video, I'm going to get into answering this question. So, what God do Christians serve or worship or whatever? So, in my views, there's two different layers Actually, there's 3 different layers to this answer. First of all, we have the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh or Jehovah. And this version of God is very warlike, very angry, jealous, and controlling and domineering to a large degree. In the Old Testament, you have this perception of God where he's commanding entire cities to be destroyed, women and children as well, to just be slaughtered. We have slavery, we have, subjugation of women. There's all sorts of what I would consider negative qualities of God and the Christian what I want to call it in the Old Testament, okay? And really, they're not even Christians in the Old Testament, because Christianity didn't come until Jesus Christ, okay? That's when the Christ part entered into this religion. So I think that it's 2 different versions of a deity that we're seeing in the Old Testament, with Yahweh or Jehovah, which is this warlike God. It's almost like an Aries, Mars type of deity, a god of war. Very much so. That's like the bulk of the Old Testament and the portrayal of the God of it. So then when we have the New Testament, where we have Jesus enter the scene, and bring that Christ energy, it's love. It's about love. It's about forgiveness. It's also about wisdom, because there's a lot of teachings that Jesus brings, and a lot of, sort of Buddhic concepts and philosophy that enters into the scene. And, that's a different portrayal of, or a different side of the God that we never saw that side of it in the Old Testament. So I think that we have 2 different layers to this, that could be 2 completely separate gods almost, when you really sit there and look at it and how the deity acts. It could literally be 2 different beings, okay? 2 different gods. And when you really analyze it, that could be why the priest and stuff to the Old Testament God hated Jesus when Jesus came on the scene and he was preaching this entire new philosophy and this entire new version of God. They called him a blasphemer. They called him a false prophet. They called him basically a liar, and that he was serving the devil and, everything else. So you have to sit there and wonder why. And it's really not that hard to understand why. It's because, there's 2 different versions of God being portrayed here. And so, yes, that's very much, to me, representing 2 different versions of deity, 2 different entire religions and spiritual approaches to it. Okay, now when we look at modern Christianity, to me, once again, this is individual to every single Christian person, okay? they're going to have different views on the Old Testament and the New Testament. They're going to come to their own conclusions on what God is and how they choose to adhere to it and follow it. Because you have many Christians living today that are very judgmental, very strict, and more so aligned with that Old Testament version of God. But you also have many Christians living today that are more aligned with love, wisdom, and Christ energy. And they have, that sort of adherence to that type of version of God. And then you have many that are in the middle somewhere. And on some topics, they're very strict. On other topics, they're very forgiving and loving. Okay, so there's a multi-layered thing going on, and there's an entire spectrum of modern Christians that can fall anywhere on that scale. Okay, so it's important to understand that. Now, one other thing where I said that this is a 3-layered answer, the third thing that I want to consider here, or at least just bring up, sort of to bring it into the discussion, because I think it's important to also look at this, is the concepts of, what are they really tapping into here? If you take the ideas of what deity they serve, let's just put that to the side for a minute, and let's look at this from a witchcraft or a magical perspective, from an energy-based perspective. Let's look at it through that lens only. Put the deity to the side. Okay. Christianity, it's a community-based religion. It's a group. Okay, it's a group mindset. There's even a part in the New Testament where the church is talked about, or the group of Christians is talked about as the body of Christ. So from, looking at it from this perspective, it could be that there really is no deity involved with it at all, that really they're just tapping into the same type of thing that covens tap into when we do coven work, or when practitioners of different magical systems work together. There's a power there. There's a power in a group. There's a power in a group of people coming together with shared intentions, with a shared spiritual agenda. I talked about this in my video, how to practice real witchcraft and covens, the group mind. That energy, that power that develops when you have a group, when you have a community together, sharing the same ideas, sharing the same goals and agendas and intentions. So this is an important thing to look at as well when you're looking at this question. Groups come together in churches once a week at the least. They all pool their energy together, and with the same intention, with the same energy. At least amongst themselves in the church, they're supposed to love everyone in there and share that loving, healing energy. They might be judgmental to people who are outside of the church, outside of the group, but within themselves, they're sharing that loving energy, at least when they're in the church and they're all gathered for that purpose. So that could be another aspect to this. What's really going on there? Are they really just raising power together with that positive intention and energy? When a lot of people pray for one intention, for one goal? Are they all really just sending that group mind, that group energy to manifest? Are they really just manifesting? Is this really just magic happening? Energy work. You have to consider that. And then they're just taking that and viewing it through a religious lens and giving the credit to God, Yahweh, or Jesus. You have to consider that. So I think that's very much possible. And I think that there's a lot of things that are taught in the New Testament, you know, things that Jesus is quoted as saying directly, that I think can very much be compared to witchcraft and that magical mindset. Okay, there's a lot that you could compare and align with that type of magical mindset. Okay, so what God do Christians serve? I think that they all serve their own version of God, truly. You know, they might all give that God the same name, Yahweh or Jehovah, or they might call it Jesus, but still within themselves, they're on a spectrum, a near infinite spectrum of possibilities of exactly, you know, how do they interpret that, and how do they act on it? How do they let it color their views of, you know, reality? And I think that for every single Christian person, that will be unique. And I think that they're just like everybody else. I think that they evolve in their own views over time. I don't think that, you know, their views just stay stagnant. Even within the system and the religion of Christianity, I think that their views do evolve and change around in different ways. Maybe evolve isn't the right word. But maybe I should just say they're not stagnant. They change around over time. And just depending. So that's kind of my take on it. I do think that there is magic in every religion. As we know what magic is, it's energy work. It is causing change. Okay, no religion would exist if there wasn't some promise of change for the better. That's really the it's kind of the basis of any type of religion or any type of spirituality at all, is change for the better. So, you know, that in and of itself is a magical concept. It's a spiritual concept. And, you know, I think that that is fundamental to any religion at all. So to me, you know, once again, this is just one of my opinions or one of my worldviews, is that every single religion was built up around magic. If you go back to the source of a religion, to the foundational time of it, I think that it was built around some sort of magical experience, some sort of spiritual experience. Someone experienced something spiritual and magical and transcendent, and they shared that with others. And slowly over time, a religion was built around that. So I'm just going to call that an opinion. for the sake of this video, but, you know, I think it's also just facts. But I know that there are so many people that will disagree with that, and that's fine. But, oh well, this is my video and this is my views, and I'm just answering Ghost Trick's question. So, yes. I will end it on that note. I'll end it at that. So this is, once again, just my views. This is just me answering the question and of what I think, what I have come to, you know, what perspective I have come to see it in after all of my many years of studying and researching and delving into these different things, different religions and different spiritualities and magic. So, I hope that answers your question, Ghost Trick. Thanks for asking, and I think that that was a great thing to cover on the channel. So, you know, if you have any other questions about this or you need clarity on anything that I said, go ahead and leave a comment below and I will answer the question. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you found this valuable. And just please leave me a comment if you found this valuable and helpful in any way. And that's going to be it for this video. Hail to the witches, hail Hecate, and blessed be.